Welcome to the Consciously Inspired Minds podcast, where we ditch the default and live life by design. I'm your host, Brandy White, personal growth enthusiast, entrepreneur, and lifestyle coach. I host conversations with creators, entrepreneurs, healers, and educators committed to living a life of truth, intention, and connection. Understanding how to evoke their higher nature, our guests take us on a journey of what it means to embody a life of conscious inspiration, joy, impact, and service. Get ready to be inspired. Hey there. Welcome to Consciously Inspired Minds. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. Usually, as you know, I have guests on that take us through what's happening in their lives, how they're living a consciously inspired life, and how they're bringing joy and impact into the world. And I thought it might be a good idea just to spend this time together, you and I, just getting to know each other a little bit better. Full transparency, in my journey, I am trying to, show up for myself in different ways and be a little bit more transparent about where I'm at in life and the road I've been on to get where I'm at today. And hasn't been a smooth ride, to say the least. And just wanted to spend this next hour or so kind of taking a deeper dive into what it means to me to live a consciously inspired life and what even got me on this track of asking that question. What does it mean to live a consciously inspired life? So get cozy, get comfortable, and we're just going to, have a little, imagine ourselves, I suppose, sitting and then a fireside chat or something like that, right? So I've got my warm tea. I'm in my home office, which is really a sacred space for me. I've got a candle lit next to me because it just brings me a little bit more peace in the process of being open and honest. And so here we go. I think where I want to start is maybe a little bit about my childhood. Since that's where we typically start with our guests, I'll do the same. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and my parents, who are still together today, and I have a younger brother, almost 3 years younger. And my mom had me at a young age. She was 19, and my dad was 20. And I would say a rough start for them, having a child and having to grow up so quickly. So very humble beginnings, I would say, for myself growing up, but very close to family. A whole lot of love in the house, a whole lot of love in the family. My mom was the youngest of 6, and so we spent a lot of time with her brothers and sisters and her mom and dad, my grandma, grandpa. We all lived pretty close together, so it was a lot of great memories with family and cousins. And, of course, as I've said before in previous episodes, my aunts and my uncles, especially my aunts, have played a huge role in who I am today. And I don't think it's really been apparent since I've had my own kids. I've got 2 daughters. Bryn is 10 and Ella's 7. And ever since I've had children of my own, you start to realize different things, right? You have more appreciation for what your parents did, or maybe even didn't do, and appreciation for all of those folks who've really made an impact in your life in maybe profound ways. And you may not realize it until we just gain that maturity and more of that life experience to know the love that was given to you. And so I have so much gratitude for that. But with that said, it was an amazing childhood in ways, but then also really hard in other ways. I was a really overweight kid. I got made fun of a lot. I didn't come from much. I had a lot of insecurities about that. I hated telling people what my parents did for a living. My dad worked third shift, and my mom cleaned my aunt's house growing up. And so I would say that my childhood was definitely attached to a lot of shame in who I was, where I came from, and just, constantly, I suppose, in that comparison mode, But with that, I feel like I can look back now and see clearly why I was dealt that hand, because it certainly led me to where I'm at today. And it gave me this spark of ambition, I would say. Growing up, I always felt different in the way that within my immediate family, I knew I was loved. It wasn't that. There was so much love in the house and we were well taken care of, but I always felt as though I wanted more for myself. I knew I could have more for myself. And I just had this deep yearning, this deep desire to do better for myself. And in a sense, I felt like my family could sometimes look at that as like, who do you think you are, right? Who do you think you are to want to have these nice things and to go and, for instance, the first thing that comes to mind is, have the wedding I wanted to have in the place I wanted to have it. And it wasn't what was typically done in my family, kind of going not all out. It was still within reason, but maybe what some people would think was just an average wedding, my family may have been, viewing it as, wow, this is so bougie. And really, like, we need all these things, and you have to have these nice things, and you want these nice cars, and you want these nice clothes, and what is going on? I just it didn't feel like I could really relate. And it never, I guess in a way, I heard a podcast recently, and this woman was talking about her childhood that felt very, very similar to mine. And one of the things that she said that resonated so deeply with me was she never felt at home. And when she said that, my heart sunk, because that's exactly how I felt. I just never felt at home. I never felt like I could be fully myself and fully express myself. I never felt like I could play big, talk big, dream big. In my experience, and we all see things through a different lens. So my parents may see this a little differently, maybe a lot differently, but for me, I felt like I was shamed for wanting more. And so, later in life, fast forwarding through, going to college, getting through that, and then getting into opportunities that put me on track to manifest this life for myself that I'd always wanted, of living in a nice home, driving a nice car, not living check to check. I was in my childhood in constant lack, right? In constant lack. There was never enough money. We were always living check to check. The rich get richer, is a line that was always said in my house. So, yeah, just a lot of limiting beliefs, right? And so I remember I'm going to jump around here a little bit, but it's just igniting certain things in me. I just know when I started to hit adulthood, there was this sense of freedom. Like, finally I can build a life that feels authentic to me, because I was never really in a space or a place as a child that I wanted to be in. And so that was really freeing. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. And so I met my husband in high school. I was a senior in high school and he was 3 years older than me. So we went to the same high school, but he was already out of high school by the time we connected. And after college, we ended up moving out together, and that was super exciting. And fast forwarding to 2009, we got married. We started dating in 2009, we got married. And I just remember sitting there at my desk looking through the website of the photographer, and there was this song that makes me tear up right now. There was a song that came on the website. That song, it goes, I don't know the title of it, but ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. That song? Yeah. That song came on. And I just immediately felt like things are going to get easier, because Jay and I are going to begin to build a life that feels authentic to us. And that felt really exciting to me. And at the time, I was working at the Kellogg company as a sales rep and, doing decent for my age. And we were paying for our wedding and everything was great. And, we were being responsible and getting some momentum in life. And it was amazing. And so when I got into that corporate scene, for whatever reason, something just sparked in me that I just wanted to continue to set myself apart. Like, now that I got a taste of what it feels like to really make a name for myself, to be making, good money, to be getting all these accolades and recognition, was like this validation for myself that I'm not my childhood, I'm not my past. It was awesome for me. And it was like, it became this addiction of wanting to always achieve and do the best and be seen and be acknowledged. And so with that came, kind of fast forwarding through, I was getting promotions, and Jay and I got married. We ended up relocating to Baltimore, Maryland with Kellogg, and that was amazing. And when we were in Baltimore, that's when we had our daughter, Bryn. And that's when, I would say it took a couple more years after she was born, but that's when life starts to pick up, doesn't it? When we have kids and values start to shift a little bit. And we spent almost 3 years in Maryland and then came back home just to be closer to family. And I came back home, actually got a job within the same industry I had been in, which was consumer packaged goods, corporate sales, but with a completely different company. And I won't name the company, but it was tough. Like it was a great opportunity to get us home. But it was during that time, right after I'd had Bryn, we came home, got that new job. Something just started to feel not aligned in the work that I was doing. It just always felt like a struggle. I was learning a ton. I just thought, you know what? It's just because I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm expanding in ways. It's just going to be a bumpy road, right? And I always had this sort of mantra growing up that you have to hustle. You got to work hard for what you want. You're not going to get where you want to go without working really hard. And I think that's true in a sense, I think that's true in a sense. But you also want to make sure that what you're working hard for is something that is on your heart and that you deeply desire to work hard for. And at the time, I was just still trying to create this life that felt normal, that felt my definition of normal. You're a middle upper class. I didn't talk much about where I came from, who I was. I just stayed hush hush about all of that because I didn't want to give anyone this perception of, oh, okay, because you didn't come from much, very humble beginnings, you know, mom didn't graduate high school, dad's working third shift. And I hesitate to say that this isn't me trying to judge in any way. But at the time, that it was attached to the shame. I was ashamed of it. And I didn't want anybody else judging me based on my past. And so I kept quiet about it. I remember as I was getting more into adulthood, people stopped asking me what my parents did for a living. And I'm like, finally, oh my gosh. Like I wasn't viewed as this child, like, oh, what do your parents do? Sort of thing. It was like, okay, I was over that, right? I was like past that season in life, past that phase of life. So anyway, I was coming back to Cincinnati and I was in this role and I thought, okay, I'm just on this learning curve, So I stayed in that role for, another 2 or 3 years. And then in the midst of that, I had my second daughter. Jay and I had Elle, and what a gift. And everything felt really, I remember when I was in the hospital, I was laying on the hospital bed with Elle in my arms right after I'd had her. And then Bryn crawls up on the hospital bed too. And I just remember having this feeling of just peace, of like full contentment, like, like we're complete. Like it was like a really an amazing feeling, I'm sure all my ladies and even gentlemen out there, you know what I'm talking about. So, but during that time when we had Elle, I was just hating my job. My husband was going through a lot with his work as well. He was trying to find his way, and he had gone back to school later in life. He actually got his degree when he was 30. He got his business degree, and which I was super proud of him for. He was still trying to kind of explore and discover what his path was. So right before I had Elle, let's see, that was December 2015, Jay had lost his job. On my birthday, actually. It tells me December 3rd, 2015, we find out he lost his job. And then I had Elle on December 28th, 2015. And what a rough year, right? Like it was full of beautiful things with Elle coming into the world. And that was awesome and amazing. But at the same time, it was a very trying period for us. And it was hard. It was really hard having a newborn and then trying to navigate, where we are in our lives professionally. And so now looking back on that time, it just makes the relationship, the marriage feel that much more bonded because, you get through things like that and it brings you closer together. Even though it's hard at the time, it definitely brings you closer together and you learn more about one another. And, eventually you learn more about how you can better support one another. So fast forward through that, I ended up looking for another job and I got back with Kellogg actually. And I, it wasn't in my original plan to even leave Kellogg ever, but because we are moving from Maryland back to Ohio, there weren't any opportunities with Kellogg at the time and I didn't have a choice. And so anyway, once I was able to get back with Kellogg, I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Things are going to get easier. Here we are again, we're kind of, life is on the upswing again. And the job was great. I was managing a team and traveling and doing all these things again that I envisioned myself doing eventually, which is being a people leader. And I loved it. I loved getting people where they wanted to go. It wasn't just about the job itself. It was really getting people where they wanted to go personally, professionally. I found so much joy in that and how to really invest in other people's development and how to support people through their journey into discovering what their true potential was. I have to be honest, I feel like that is a superpower of mine, is recognizing strengths in other people and helping them see that in themselves as well. So Yeah, so here we are back at Kellogg. Everything's great, but all good things come to an end and values start to shift. I was working a ton. I was traveling a lot, and it was really a lot of pressure on my husband, who was doing all of the, daycare pickups, drop-offs, bath time, just all of it here by himself. And with the help of my amazing mother-in-law too. I can't say enough. I just have no words. I have so much gratitude for her. She was there for us in such a big, 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 big way through that time. But yeah, so my husband was kind of holding everything down at home, and I was the breadwinner at the time. And so, and I carried a lot of pride in that. And I wanted to see myself as the strong corporate woman who could just make shit happen. Like I could make shit happen for myself. And I'd always felt that way, though. I always felt that whatever I wanted ever in life, whenever I envisioned it or felt it, it happened. And so even then, I would say I had a lot of confidence and trust in myself to know that if I really wanted something, there was no stopping me. Like there was no stopping me. But that also started to get in the way. And not intentionally, I think once we start having families and our lives pick up in different ways, like I said, your priorities shift, your values shift. And to be honest with you, I never saw myself not working. I thought, I'm not a stay-at-home mom. That's just not how I'm wired. I'm always going to be doing something. I'm always going to be working and striving and achieving and all these things. Okay, so here we are, and everything's going great back at Kellogg, but it's becoming very taxing here at home. And it's putting a lot of pressure on my husband. It's putting a lot of pressure on our marriage. It's putting a lot of pressure just on schedules in the house in general. And the energy is heavy in the house, and it's not fun. It's not joyful. It's serious. It's just transactional. I thought, okay, well, let me fix this because I'm also a fixer. And so what can I do to change this now? Now what do I need to do to make this right? And I had applied for a pretty high profile position at Kellogg that was here in Cincinnati and had basically no travel involved, but it was a pressurous kind of role that not many people wanted because of it. So yeah, I applied. I thought at the time that's what I wanted. I'm like, okay, this will be a fix to my problems. And let me chase this down, right? Let me chase this down. So I get the job, and I remember the day that I had been given the offer. Like I was excited, I was like, okay, great. I was excited, like, yep, I did it. But it fell flat for me at the same time. It was like, okay, just like moving on. Like I was just trying to get through life, like I was just trying to make the next best move and just keeping my head above water, just holding on like by a thread. So here we are in this role. I'm a couple months in. I'm drowning. I am absolutely fucking drowning in this job. It's challenging in so many ways. I am losing confidence in myself by the day. I am one of those people who, like most of you, it's like, I'm going to figure this out. We're high achievers, right? We're like, we're going to do the damn thing. We're going to figure this out. We're going to be the best. We're going to make it right. And I was working, probably 12, 14-hour days on top of raising the kids and husband and house. You know the story. And there were so many late nights I was up working. I remember being at the office until midnight and then getting up the next morning, 6 a.m., whatever. And getting up and just doing it all over again, getting the kids ready for school, daycare, sending them off. I was getting no rest, and I was depressed, really, probably about 3 months into this new role. I just felt like I wasn't getting ahead. In the beginning, you're like, okay, this is just sort of like you have this honeymoon phase of a new job. And you're like, again, I'm just learning. I'm just trying to develop here. But nothing was really, it felt way too forced for me. Nothing was easy. I was dreading going into the office. I literally felt like I did not have a life outside of the office. My relationships were being impacted. My social life was impacted. How I was showing up for my kids, I was just really short-fused and cranky all the time. I was tired. I was exhausted. I was cranky toward my husband. And gosh, guys, I even remember one night, I have a photo of this. This is how profound it was. Let's see, Bryn was 3, 4 at the time. Is that right? Yeah, 13, 14. Maybe she was like 5, actually. So she was used to me working late in my office. And she would actually make a bed in my office. She didn't want to go up to bed without me. And she would grab the pillows off the couch and a couple blankets, and she would actually make a bed right next to me in my office. Like, wow, right? And then taking kind of like that mom walk of shame at 2, 3 a.m. back to bed just to get up, a few hours later and do it all over again. Living off caffeine and grabbing coffees whenever I can. And I knew I was going to work exhausted. People would look at me and just be like, wow, you look tired. I'm like, yep, I'm tired, to say the least. So nothing was feeling aligned at all. And I kept having this internal conflict with myself. I kept telling my husband, I remember like when everything would slow down at night, we would be in bed, kind of just watching TV and just chatting about the day, whatever. And I'm like, something just doesn't feel right. Like I want to quit my job so bad. I don't know what I need to do. I don't know what I want to do, but this does not feel right. But because I didn't have an answer about what that plan B was and what would that mean for our family if I just quit my job, being the breadwinner, and what would that mean and how would that impact what we were trying to accomplish as a family? And like, that's not an option. I can't just quit my job. And especially when I have no idea what I want to do next. So I started that role in September of 2018. So fast forward, coming full circle here, stick with me. I appreciate you being patient through all of this. So fast forward, February 2019. Okay, so my daughter, again, she was 5, she was in kindergarten, and at school, they would get these little rewards called spirit sticks. And they were little kind of like tassels. I don't know if tassels are the right word for it, but like these little embroidered tassels that you can hang on your backpack, and you would get them as a reward for being a good listener or act of kindness or just being recognized in some positive way. My daughter, Bryn, was obsessed with getting these spirit sticks. Okay, so anytime she got one, she was super proud of it. And I have to tell you that my daughter, Bryn, she is very sure of herself. She knows what she wants, and she's very focused and driven and all of those things, right? So these spirit sticks meant a lot to her. So I'm trying to be gentle in how I tell this story. So she comes home one day with a spirit stick that she had taken from a friend. She's 5. She's in kindergarten, right? They're on the bus. She took this spirit stick from a friend because she hadn't gotten one in a little while. And come to find out, the friend's mom had called me and said, hey, did Bryn happen to pick up so-and-so spirit stick on the bus? Because, she's missing it, and we just want to double check to see if Bryn picked it up. Okay, so Bryn did pick it up. And when I got home that night from work at 7:30 p.m., Bryn, I walk into the house and she didn't know I'd already talked to the mom and knew what the spirit stick looked like and all of that. So I walk in and Bryn tells me, Mom, I got a spirit stick today. And I'm like, really? Okay, right? I'm just going along with it. Let me see. She pulls it out and it's identical to the spirit stick that the mom had described to me. That was her daughter's. And I said, Bryn, where did you get this? Okay, we find out she took it from the friend and she was so excited to share this spirit stick with me. I was so upset. And and all of this came through me in a wave of emotion because I thought at the time I was failing in so many areas of my life. I was failing in my relationships. I was failing in my job. And most importantly, I was failing as a mother. As a mother, I felt I was failing at the time because how could my child take something like this from another child? So Bryn and I go to the little girl's house. We return it. Lesson learned, right? Okay, if nothing else, like this is a lesson that we don't take things from other people, et cetera, et cetera. So the next day I drop Bryn and Elle off at preschool and I am pulling up to the parking lot of the office to go into work for what was going to be another action-packed day of meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what I'm talking about. So here I am. Outlook is once again dictating what my day is going to look like. And I have an 8 a.m. meeting sharp. So I'm sitting out in the parking lot and I am just still so shook up about last evening's events with the spirit stick. And I am just all out of sorts. I call my mom because I wanted to let her know the incident that happened. And so, well, I called her just to check in, but really that's why I called her because I just needed some support in that moment. And I remember calling her and I was bawling. I was so upset. You guys. I told my mom, I was like, what child steals a spirit stick from another child? And how did I, like, how am I failing Bryn? You know, like, how am I just, I'm just totally fucking everything up. Like, nothing's right. What am I doing? What is going on? And I am bawling. I'm bawling. And she's just trying to soothe me in any way she can. Right then and there, I text my boss and I'm like, I'm not going to be in today. I'm not going to be in the office. And I didn't even care. I didn't care, you know, what kind of meetings I had, what sort of commitments I had. Cancel it all. Like, fuck it, cancel it all. And what's really ironic is that I already had like an annual checkup, physical doctor's appointment scheduled for this particular day. So I told my mom, I said, you know, I'm bawling. She's like, are you okay? Do you want me to? My mom's one of the most supportive women I've ever met. She would do anything for you. And she's like, what do you need me to do? Where do you need me to be? Can I, you know, do you want me to come get you? Should I meet you? And I said, just meet me. We'll meet for lunch. And right after that, I have a doctor's appointment and you can come with me to the doctor's appointment as well. So great. So this was going to be around lunchtime. I was going to meet her. Straight from the office, I come home and I remember I'm standing by the steps looking upstairs at my husband who's getting ready for work. And mind you, sidebar here, my husband had just started his business 6 months prior to this, right? He had kind of taken a leap of faith, jumped off the ledge, and he always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So he was already on his track, on his journey. To be completely honest with you, not it was actually without a whole lot of support from me. I was like, no, I mean, I always supported Jay having his own business and doing that. I knew he could. He's so gifted. He's so talented in so many ways. But as far as being there as he made the leap into that decision of being an entrepreneur, I was so preoccupied in my own journey and in my own work. I felt like in this role that I was drowning in, I felt like I didn't have any time, space, capacity to support him in the way that he deserved to be supported at the time. So here we are. I come home. He's at the top of the steps. He knows clearly something's wrong. I'm bawling. I'm just inconsolable at this time. And I said, I am going to quit my job. Like, this is not okay. I can't do this anymore. And he looked at me and he said, okay. Like, there was no, you're not. What are you talking about? It's like, whenever I come to Jay with so much conviction, he's like, yep, got it. We're doing this. Or no, we're not doing this. So he has full trust, right? And I have full trust in him too. I'm like, I'm quitting. I'm fucking quitting. Like, I'm out of here. I can't do this. This is impacting my life way too much. At this point, I'm depressed. I'm sad every day. I feel like I'm just failing all over the place. And it's not healthy. And so we sit down at the kitchen table and we're talking for a while. And again, like, I'm just bawling. So I was like, I have to quit. And I've canceled my day. I don't know what it's going to look like from here, but I'm going to go to this doctor's appointment, meet my mom, and then we'll just suss out the details later, So he's probably like, what the hell? So I then leave the house. I go to meet my mom. For all you Cincinnatians who know of Skyline Chili, Cincinnati is known for its chili, and it's a restaurant called Skyline. Met my mom there, and it wasn't a location that I typically go to because it was next to the doctor's office. So it just made sense. But I go in there, my mom's already there. And because I've been crying all day, I'm obviously a train wreck. I'm obviously a mess. I'm like, I don't even want to look at anybody. So this is when it gets a little woo-woo, guys. So just stick with me here. So this is kind of, I'm getting to the impetus of what kind of led me on this track of this awakening, really. So I walk into Skyline and there's this woman standing at the cashier and she looks so familiar to me, enough for me to kind of like, do I know her from somewhere? But just quickly dismiss. I sit down with my mom and we start chatting about, like what's going on. And I remember one of the first things I said to her was, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I want to do, but I do know that I want to help people. And not clinically. I don't want to go be a doctor or a nurse or something like that, but I want to help people. And I want to help people get where they want to go. And that was one of the things, like in my leadership roles, that I had really enjoyed and was really good at, to be honest. So sitting down with her made me feel better, just kind of getting some things off my chest. And I just started already to feel a little bit lighter that I had decided that enough was enough and I was ready for a change. So we get up, we go check out, and on our bill, on our ticket, there was a number on top of the ticket. It was 222. I didn't know this until the lady at the cash register said to us, oh, wow, you have an angel number 222 at the top of your bill. And I was like, angel number? I've never even heard of such a thing. She's like, if you want to know more about angel numbers, there's a woman sitting right back there who you can go and talk to. And I'm like, what the? No, I'm not going to go talk to some random person about an angel number. Like, what? So anyway, we walk out and my mom she had lost her dad, and they were very close. And so we're walking out of the restaurant. This was years prior to this incident, that she had lost her dad. And so my grandpa, she says, "Oh, I bet that's your grandpa talking to me." And I'm like, "Mom, come on. Like, okay, all right." So we get to the doctor's office, which was just across the street. And I'm sitting there in the actual examination room, waiting for the doctor to come in. And I've got my phone in my hand. And I'm like, "What's this angel number 222 thing about?" So I Google it. And the first thing that comes up, well, hold on, let me get there. I'm scrolling through all my photos here because this is how impactful it was. I took a picture of it that day because it was so resonant. And it hit me so deeply on a soul level that made me feel so supported and so held like nothing I'd ever felt before. And what's really curious about it is that I had what I believe to be experience with angel numbers before. I just didn't know what it was until then. And then, gosh, from there, that's when the floodgates started to open for me around getting these angel numbers constantly. And they still show up for me to this day. But here we go. So this is exactly what came up for me that day. So the hidden meaning behind angel number 222 suggests that you are at a point in your life where you are looking for some sense of balance. This means it's the best time to have faith and to keep trusting. And in case you didn't know this, the numbers 222 also mean peace and harmony. And I get chills even when I read that because that's exactly how I was feeling at the time. Like I just wanted to be able to trust that what I was doing was really aligned with my soul. And I wanted to I just wanted someone to tell me I was making a good choice because I've always kind of taken risks in life and always kind of went for it. Kind of even thought outside the box to get where I wanted to go. But in the case of having so much, taking such a risk, right? Because it wasn't just now impacting me. It was impacting my family and my kids and my husband. And we have a house, we have bills we've got, right? Like, what I'm saying. And so this number coming up for me, telling me to have faith and to trust, and that it means peace and harmony. Oh, it was like just hearing that I was just able to, I remember just like exhaling and kind of falling forward in my chair. And I started crying again because it was like, damn, I'm being held right now. And I'm being supported in a way that I never felt before. And so I don't know what it was about me thinking that I recognized that woman when I walked into Skyline that day, and then she delivering this number to me. And ever since then, angel numbers flood into my life. I see them all the time. I see them on license plates. I see them on clocks, on my clock at home all the time. And so it's a lot of, 222 is a very special one to me, but 1111, 911, 711, 311, 211, anything that ends in 11, I see it constantly. Even the 444s, the 555s, 333. I ended up buying, just kind of a sidebar here, I ended up buying an angel numbers book that was highly recommended. And for anyone else who might be receiving what they believe to be angel numbers, it's a book by Kyle Gray, and it's just called Angel Numbers. And I reference this book all the time. So here we are. I have called this day my day of reckoning, my moment of grace. And after this day, I decide that it's time to leave my job. And from there, it was really just a series of events. You guys, I can't describe it, but I think because I had had that moment of initial awakening, that then I started to open up more to receive additional messages that maybe there for me to pick up and to listen to. And there are so many other events that happen after this particular day, but I ended up quitting my job and sitting down with my boss and really letting him know that, obviously, like, I had so much gratitude, but this just wasn't aligned to me. I couldn't even at the time fully express honestly why I was leaving the job. I basically just leaned on the fact that I didn't have any work-life balance and that it just wasn't working for me at the time. But it was so much more than that, right? Like, I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And this was the universe's way of screaming at me. Like, I will hear whispers, and then, somehow those whispers get louder and louder. Well, yeah, it got louder for me. It was a few weeks after that, the work that I was doing, they offered me to stay, but in a different role. And that was tempting, guys. That was tempting. I was like, okay, maybe it's just this role. Maybe I just need to get out of this role. And if I get into something else, but I wasn't excited about that either. I thought about it for a few days, but I ultimately came back and I was like, nope. I need a clean break. I remember talking to some of the folks that I was really close to in my work at Kellogg. There's some amazing, amazing people at Kellogg, and I'll be just eternally, grateful for their support. But those folks who I really felt a connection with, they knew what was going on, that I was moving on to something that was calling me, right? I was moving on to something else that was calling me. It wasn't just like, hey, this isn't working, work-life balance. Like, no, it was something bigger than that. And for anybody going through the same thing, it's something bigger than that too. You know that you're being called for something higher for you, not something bigger, better, whatever, but more aligned to you. And I would be lying if I said the road from here was easy. It wasn't. I'm just now, so this was 2019, I'm just now feeling like I'm putting the puzzle pieces back together, like it takes a lot to make a big decision and to change behavioral, emotional patterns that you've had for, plenty of years leading up to a decision that you're making that feels like really a loss. And I really felt like, although I felt lighter and easier and I could trust and I felt supported, I was going through a major identity crisis because my corporate job and what I did was how I identified and explained who I was to people. And without that, what did I have? Who was I? Like, who are we without those titles and those roles and those responsibilities? And so I would always find myself, especially in the beginning, whenever I would meet someone else, whenever I would meet someone new, or they would ask me what I did at the time, if I wasn't working or didn't have a strong response, I couldn't say, hey, I do this at this company. Like, this is what I do, and be proud of it, right? Like, I didn't have that to fall back on anymore. And it was like super uncomfortable for me. I'm like, oh, like I felt myself tense up. Like, no, don't ask me. Like, I don't want to explain it. And then I felt like I'd over explain, like, well, I'm not working right now, or I'm going through this certification, but I come from a corporate background. Like, I need you to know, I come from a corporate background of X amount of years and blah, 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 like, no, like, I need these people to still know, like, I'm out here, like, getting after it, right? Getting after life and achieving. And so it was really uncomfortable for me for a while. And so I guess maybe you might be asking yourself, okay, so once you take the leap and decide, like, what happens from there? That, like, then what do you do? How do you start to figure out how to live a consciously inspired life? How do you know what to do next? And honestly, guys, there's no formula for it. You do whatever the hell you want. Like, that's what it is. You do whatever the hell you want. And when you do whatever the hell you want and you really get active and engaged with life and what brings you excitement, that's when change starts to happen. That's when you start to learn more about yourself. Now, I will say, I had a lot of emotional congestion once I quit my job, and I talk about this all the time on other episodes, but just to give you a little bit more context, once I quit my job, I had been working since I was 13 years old. And so for me, it was like always about the hustle and always about like, how can I get what I need to continue to like thrive and get where I want to go and have the things that I want to have and become the person I want to be, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm talking about. So after I quit my job, I am trying to figure out, okay, well, what's next? Oh, so here's where I was going with that hustle, right? Ever since I was 13, I was now in a place where my husband, like, bless his soul, was so patient with me through this process, where I was getting up and I could just get up with ease. My husband and I were getting up together in the mornings and actually having a conversation over coffee. Like, we weren't getting up and rushing out of the house and getting showers and getting the kids dressed and pushing them out the door and blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? No. The kids were still in bed. My husband and I intentionally got up earlier and had a conversation about what was going on. Like, how are we feeling? What's going on that day? What are da-da-da-da-da? And at the time, like, a lot of things were festering inside of me. So he was so patient and really hearing me out about what it was that was on my mind or on my heart and where I think I might want to head in pursuit of this consciously inspired life, right? We're finding more connection, and it gave us time to work through things that were getting ignored before. We could really talk through things and really come together and have honest conversations. And if there's any advice I can give to you in any relationship out there, it's like always having the hard conversations. You know, I mean, sometimes we kick the can. I get it. We kick the can a couple days. No, I don't feel like going here right now. The kids are distracting you. Like, I get it. But have the conversation, right? So anyway, we start, reconnecting. And then I just started addressing things that I felt this yearning and this desire for. Like, I felt like I wanted to get connected in my community. I wanted to volunteer. I wanted to go out to lunch with my girlfriends. I wanted to go have coffee with my friends. I wanted to show up more for my kids in whatever way that looks like. I wanted to take them to all of their appointments. I wanted to go to all their school stuff. I wanted to pick them up from school when they were sick. Like, all of the things that I wasn't able to do before, or I couldn't do much of, or when I did do them, I wasn't 100% present because I was so distracted by other things. I wanted to do that now. At the time, I was helping my husband on his business. Like, hey, let me call your customers. Let me do this for you. Because I still wanted to feel like I still wanted to do something, right? Like, I wanted to stay in motion. I wanted to keep my skills sharpened, all this stuff. And I'm like, where can I be of service? And being of service, helping my husband, calling his customers, booking his appointments, being there for my kids. You guys, I would wake up and like the sun is shining. I feel amazing. Like, things look brighter. The air is crisper. Things smell differently. Just more alive. You know what I mean? I remember as I was connecting with my girlfriends and going to coffee dates and stuff like that, and random times of day that I was never able to, I met two girlfriends for coffee one day who were such a huge support to me at the time. And we were sitting in Starbucks, and I just remember looking around me, guys, and like, people were just hustle, bustle, getting their coffees, leaving, on the phone, and I'm like, damn. I told my girlfriends, I'm like, do you see that? Like, all of these people right now are asleep. They're awake. They're here, but they're asleep. Like they don't know what's going on around them. Like they are sleepwalking through life. They are fucking sleepwalking through life. And that was me. Like 100% that was me. But it was like, for some reason, because of this moment of grace and this awakening that I had, I'm like, now I can see it. I felt like finally I had this conscious awareness of what was going on around me. And because I was given this time to settle down, calm down my nervous system, to be present, to just slow down, things became more clear. And so when we hear about, hey, find ways to meditate, walk in nature, do what makes you, yeah, we can say all of these things, but it's really about what feels good to you and that what makes you feel connected to you, that we need to make sure that we're nurturing that, because we can't continue to give what we don't have. And so even to this day, it's a hard boundary for me when I know I need to nurture my soul, that my family understands that. And I think it's a great lesson. I think I probably said this in another episode. It's a great lesson for the people around you that you love and care about, your kids, your husband, whomever, your friends, to know that you have that boundary, because it gives them permission to have that boundary too. And so when I was given this time, I'm like, I felt so grateful for it. In a way, I was like, why me? Right? Like, wow, there's so many other people walking around who are just so closed off to listening to themselves. And I felt like it was this huge gift I was given. And I'm like, why me? Looking back, I've always had this fascination with personal development. Always. Like my psychology class in high school, I was all about it. Like, you guys remember when The Secret came out and Oprah was talking about it? Okay, at the time, I wasn't a big reader, but you better believe I bought the book and read the book. Like, what is this, right? And it's just pulling me back in. Also, when I got more still, I was waking up, and maybe some of you have had this experience. If you're listening to this particular podcast, Consciously Inspired Minds, this has probably happened to you, where you're going through this awakening, right? You're going through this conscious awakening, and something wakes you up between, let's say, 3:30 in the morning, right? And there's this, you feel like it's like this calling. I would wake up 3:30 in the morning, and I would feel pulled to look through a book that my grandmother had written in about her life story. I would get up, I would just cry. I would sit there and cry. I would go downstairs, and for whatever reason, I just started this fascination with Netflix documentaries on yoga and human growth and expansion. And I remember 2 Netflix docuseries. I can't remember the name of one, but it was this girl who was going through a hard time in life. She was, maybe like in her early 20s, teenager. But anyway, she was going through a tough time, and she was going on her journey through becoming a yoga instructor. And so this docuseries on yoga, and then also another docuseries on Ram Dass, who is a renowned spiritual teacher. I had no idea who Ram Dass was at the time. And for those of you listening, I know you know who Ram Dass is. Like, what is that? That's something bigger than me happening, right? And then from there, it was, I'm in a coffee shop with my sister-in-law, and I see Gabrielle Bernstein's book, The Universe Has Your Back, sitting on the coffee table there. And I just, anything universe, the universe talking to you or the universe having messages for you always fascinated me in some way. And so that title of the book grabbed my attention. I'm like, what? I took a picture of the book. I bought the book. And it was that book that really started to change my mind and really started to bring awareness and consciousness around what it meant to live a consciously inspired life. And then I started looking up Gabrielle Bernstein on YouTube. That then led me down to a video of Dr. Wayne Dyer, who is a profound mentor in my life. He has since passed. He passed in August of 2015. But this man has been a profound spiritual teacher in my life, a profound mentor. And then from there, it was just, then you're on to the next thing and the next thing. And then all of a sudden I'm in yoga class, and then all of a sudden I'm becoming a yoga instructor, right? And all of a sudden I am enrolling in a mind-body certification. And then from there, all of a sudden I feel pulled to get my certification as a professional coach. And then from there, I'm like, you know what? I really want to start this apparel business. This online inspirational apparel business. And boom. Then from there, I'm like, you know what? I have something more to say. I want to start this podcast, Consciously Inspired Minds. Consciously Inspired Minds. And I continue to have moments where I am being pulled to do and to work on certain projects, you know? For instance, when I had the idea of Beanie Love, which is my inspirational apparel business, I had launched that last year in 2022 in December, and it had a completely different look to it, And, you know, honestly, full transparency, I had great intentions in that first launch, but it just didn't land the way I wanted it to. The aesthetic, the messaging was there, but not completely in a way that I wanted it to deliver. So then I got inspired to make some changes, and I just relaunched it over this summer. So check it out at beanielove.com. Some really cute tees for women and kids and babies. A lot of fun stuff. So www.beanielove.com. But it was at the same time that I was getting inspired to change up the aesthetic of Beanie Love that I was also getting pulled to start Consciously Inspired Minds. And I mean, I knew that I was supposed to do this podcast. Again, here we are, 4 years later. I'm getting up at 3:30 in the morning to work on my graphics for Beanie Love and working on my podcast. Getting pulled straight out of bed into my office, sitting down, wide awake, ready to get started on the new look on Beanie Love and getting ready to launch my podcast. What do I need to do? How do I make this happen? And I'm excited for it, and I'm here for it. And the other thing too is that I am 100% committed to the work that I do because I love it. Not because I feel like, oh, I should get up early and do this. I should read this book. I should take this class. I should take this certification. No. It's because I love it. Now, does it mean that I know exactly where I'm headed, when I'm headed there, and how to do it? Hell no. Hell no, it doesn't. I still have my days of doubt for sure. I mean, there are days where I feel super inspired and I'm getting momentum and I've got ideas flowing through me and I know exactly what I want to do with those ideas. And then there's days where it feels like nothing. Like I just can't catch a break. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. What is happening? Why am I doing this? Who am I to think that I am going to be successful at this online business? Who am I to think that anybody's going to listen to this podcast? Who am I to think that anybody will want to be a client of mine? Like, what do I have to share? What do I have to give, really, right? I have those days. But what's beautiful is that I have committed to cultivating a community and a space and an environment that continues to feed my growth and expansion and my confidence. I have people supporting me and cheering me on. My husband is my biggest cheerleader. In those days of doubt, I'm like, Jay, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what is all this for, right? He's the one who gets me back on track. And I know that there are people who really, truly, honestly believe in me and what I'm doing. That's what keeps me going also. And not losing sight of that, because I was actually just listening to this podcast. Simon Sinek was saying confidence doesn't come from within. Like, con means with. Con means with. So confidence is allowing someone else to lift us up, build our confidence, tell us we can do it, believe in us when we can't believe in us. And so this is another purpose behind Consciously Inspired Minds, is because I'm still trying to figure out how to share my message with anyone who wants to hear it. If you don't want to hear what I have to say, that's okay. If you're not subscribing to what I'm saying, that's okay. Perfect. But for me, my intention is, how can I show up for other people and share with them what I have learned through my journey of what it means to live a consciously inspired life, and giving folks the opportunity to have a platform to talk about the impact that they're making in the world. Because I also believe that when we speak about what is on our hearts and soul, we learn more about ourselves in that process. And so we're not just always up in our heads about it, we're really having conversation. We're in union with other people, and really using each other as inspiration for the work that we're doing in the world. And for me, it's all about a win-win. It's how can we create a win-win result where everybody is learning, growing, expanding, building awareness and consciousness about what it is that lights you up. And so here we are, everybody. I had no idea when I jumped on this episode today. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to have an hour worth of content. We're now here at an hour and almost 13 minutes, and I feel like I could still keep going. But before I started this episode, I've been kind of kicking the can on this a little bit. I'm not going to lie, because I'm like, do I really do this? Does anybody really want to hear what I have to say? Do I have anything to say? I even sat down the other day and I was like, you know what? I'm going to write it out. I started writing, and it just, I'm like marking words out. I'm too in my head about it. I'm like, I'm just going to type it out. And I start typing and I'm like, nope, still not feeling it. So I stop. I tell my husband, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm supposed to do this. Like, it's not flowing through me. It's not coming to me the way I feel like spirit would want it to come through me. And so I paused, kicked the can a little bit, a couple of days later, right? And so I just sat down at my desk today and I was like, I'm gonna commit. And I'm just going to talk through whatever's on my mind. And for any of you who know me personally, know that I pick an oracle card every single day. So I have a practice that I do every morning. I have a ritual, which is so incredibly important to me, which is getting up before the house, before my kids, before my husband. And I love the quiet time in the mornings where I feel the most peace and the most clarity. And I will read, I will meditate, I will do something that fills me up that morning or that I'm feeling pulled to do. And part of that ritual is pulling an oracle card. And I could recommend a couple different decks, but I find connection with a particular deck for a while, and I pull oracle cards, and it provides a message from spirit to you about what you maybe should consider and what's happening in your life that day, or encouraging you or providing you support in some way. And a lot of the cards that I've been picking and choosing are, around going within and natural healing power, and really showing up for myself and following the light and being heard and sharing my story and realizing I have something all of a sudden that I feel as though I want to share, and it's now time to share it and to trust. And so here I am, just trusting. So, yeah. So I appreciate your patience through this episode, and I hope that you have found some sort of clarity and peace, inspiration, growth somehow, some way. If you've enjoyed this episode, you can reach me through consciouslyinspiredminds.com. I'm on social media. You can reach me on Instagram at brandy.lee.white or through Beanie Love. I'm on social as well. Beanie Love Apparel is my Instagram handle, Facebook, all the places. So yeah, I would love to hear from you, any feedback that you have, or if you've listened to other episodes of this podcast and you have any feedback for me there, I'd love to hear it. Always trying to grow and learn and accept constructive feedback. So, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate you listening. You guys have a beautiful day. And until next time, bye-bye. That's all for today. Thanks so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. If you'd like to learn more about Consciously Inspired Minds, you can visit us at consciouslyinspiredminds.com. Until we connect again, explore what inspires you.